Hello everybody. The saga continues, part 14. And I know I've been making these videos for quite some time now, not really making much progress on the plus side of getting this radio to play, but I'm finding a lot of weird stuff in this set. And between 3 different YouTube members have kind of determined that somebody must have played around with this thing some, and a few of the other changes were schematic changes. One, I was using a schematic that was from Beatman's, and I had a schematic from Ryder's, and I had a schematic from Sam's. Well, passing those schematics around between my 3 heavy hitters, we have determined that Beatman's is the most correct and spot-on schematic for this particular radio. It has the most current, up-to-date changes. It has the current items that should be in this chassis, and the other ones show some revisions that were made and are modifications to the original. I take it the Beatman's must be the closest, or is the original schematic for this radio with all of its changes. But nonetheless, I have been trying to update you guys of what I'm finding in oddities in this thing, and maybe might point out a little bit more what its problem might be. Now, I did take voltage measurements last night for every tube and every pin on every tube. And when you look at this, I'll put a picture right after this segment in the video, that the voltages that are on the left are my voltages, are what this radio is outputting. And the voltages that are on the right are the ones that are supposed to be accurate to what the schematic shows. And I'll put a picture of that in right now. Now, some of the other stuff that I have found, I think are kind of weird, are differences in voltages across stuff that should be exactly the same. I want to power up my Variac. Power's off on this. The digital multimeter is set in the 200 volt range on DC. I believe it is. Yep, it's on DC. We're going to go ahead and turn on the Variac. It is set to 117 volts output. And the tubes do light. We don't have any problems with tubes lighting up and stuff like that. Watch this meter as the tubes light and the capacitors start to charge. And it'll take it a minute or so. Like I said, my input voltage is 117 spot on. The electrolytic capacitor is off the edge of the rectifier tube is showing 124.6 volts. Now let's go over here and hook to the electrolytic that is off of pin 6 on the 12BE6 and show you our voltages there. The voltage is a lot less, 103.6. And that is the one, I did have a pencil around here somewhere. Anyway, that is the one that comes off of this will work. That comes off of pin 7 right or 6 right here on the 12BE6. Comes up and around this red wire right here. So we have 104, 103 volts on this capacitor. We have 124 on this one. It's a little strange, I think. The other thing I found odd is I'll keep my clip here on the common ground and hook it to the chassis. Somewhere we've got bleed-through voltage. We've got 5 volts on the chassis, DC. I don't know where that's coming from. This radio is said to have a floating ground. Now, I don't know if that means this down here on the bottom of the tuning capacitor, this particular screw, is a floating ground, because this capacitor attaches right to the ground metal of the chassis itself. And they've even went as far as to ground Let me find the wire. I found it last night. From the center of this tube socket right here, this is the only tube socket in this set that's like this, is metal, has a ground connection via the thin little black wire back to the metal that's around the edge of the clock plug to ground it. But this particular tube right here does not have a center. Does not have a center lead. That is the 12BA6 is what that is in the middle right here. This one right here, 12BA6. Also, another thing I have found odd is this 10 megohm resistor right here gets blazingly hot after this has been on for a while. And this 470 k ohm resistor right here gets extremely hot. And these both go to the 50C5 between the 12, well, I forget the tubes on this. You think I'd know by now. Between the 12AT6, pin number 6, both of those are connected to pin 6. 10 megohm goes to pin 1 on the 50C5. The 470K goes to pin 2 on the 50C5. And then both get pretty hot. And one more thing I want to show you. We'll power the set down to do this. Is I've noticed some odd capacitance in some of my my capacitors, and have been told that to check a couple of these capacitors because some of them might be getting bad. They might pass bleed. Well, that's where the bleed through voltage is coming through, I believe. Make sure that they're not passing voltage to the ground. So I'll set this up. I just want to show you, we'll pick a capacitor here that's just random. Let's see. This is a 0.05, 400 volt. .005. That's exactly 0.05. I'm sorry. That's exactly what that capacitor should be. That one's good. This one here, the next one, should be a 0.01 at 400 volt. Spot on. This one here should be another 0.05 at 400 volt. So that one's good. This one here is a 0.01, 400 volt. Yeah, she's just a little high. It's probably taken into consideration that 100 picofarad that's on that IF can right there too. This one should be a 0.005. What's wrong with her gauge? I had this one reading last night just fine. It's kind of a hard one to get your leads on. He was okay. This one here is a 0.22. That one was okay. This is another 0.005. It was okay. The one that gets me, it should be a 0.05, is this one right here, and it's not. It's bad. It's something's definitely wrong here. And it might drop and end up being okay, but it's just erratic. It's all over the place. And what that capacitor does, it goes between pin 5 on the rectifier tube, the 35W4 rectifier tube, and this lug right here on the L1 local oscillator. Now I do have continuity between this lug of the local oscillator and this lug right here. I do not have continuity between this one and this one, or this one and this one. But I noticed that last night. That seems kind of funky. And I was actually thinking about taking that out of the circuit and seeing what is wrong, you know, if that reads correctly out of the circuit and what it does to the radio as a whole while it's out of the circuit. So it's just one of them things to try, I guess. But that shouldn't do that. Now, one of the other things I noticed on my schematic, and I don't have it down here tonight, is there's a 22 ohm resistor on the Beatman schematic that's not in this set either. As a matter of fact, I didn't even order them because they weren't on the list of stuff to order when I first got my schematics. But here is this is actually a 27 ohm that will replace the 25 that's not in here, that should be in here, between pin 5 of the rectifier and pin 3 of the rectifier, between the plate and the filament. So that needs to be put in. That was revised. That was not put in. So guys, I mean, there's kind of where we're at right now. A few little weird things just to add to the thrill of restoring old radios and whatnot. So I wanted to show you that and pass that along. I was thinking there was something else I was going to do, but I don't remember what it was. So for now, I know what it was. Let me go over and tap the mouse pad on my computer because it's fell asleep and I can't see the screen. And then we'll come back over here and I'll show you, without distortion hopefully, what this thing looks like. This camera seems to do a pretty good job of getting down in close. And John, if you're watching, this right here is pin 5 on the rectifier. I don't know why all of them are there. It's not there on the schematic. Right there's pin 5. And none of the plates in that tuning capacitor are shorted. Everything's okay. So for now, I'll upload this video. It's about 20 minutes to 9 on Monday evening. And we'll go from there. Thanks for watching, guys. There'll be definitely more to come later.